Hey, it's Jason from Pro Guitar Studio, and today we're taking a look at octaves. Now, first things first, now that you've heard the piece that we're going to look at today, we're going to talk about what an octave is. So, an octave might sound fancy, but really it's the same note, but either higher or lower. So, an octave of a particular note, like an octave of a C note, is the same note, but in a higher range or a lower range. So, a higher octave, we'll go from, let's say this is a C note right here. This here is a C note as well, but higher in pitch, okay? So when we're playing octaves on the guitar, it means we're playing two of the same notes at the same time, but in different octaves. And typically we're just going to go one octave apart. You can do them, two octaves apart, like, but more often you're going to see them one octave apart. And it's a pretty simple technique. If you know how to play power chords, it's not going to be hard to do. The hardest thing with this technique is how you're going to pick it. So when we look at an octave, let's start off with the C note, okay? So 3rd fret on string number 5, so to make sure I'm in focus here. The octave is on the 5th fret of string number 3, okay? So this is the C note on string number 5. 3rd fret, string number 3 is our octave. So those are both C notes, okay? Now, when we're playing these together, there's a few ways we can do it. One is that you can use a pick, and especially in a rock genre, you're going to be using a pick, maybe some distortion, but you need to block out every other single note that you're not playing. So my first finger would butt up against string number 6. My index finger also is blocking string number 4. Just on an angle, right? So I'm on a flatter angle trying to get that in there. My ring finger on the 5th fret of string number 3. So that one you're going to hear, but string number 2 and 1, you're not going to hear at all, because my first finger is blocking that out. So now if we're strumming that with a pick, like I said, the most important thing is making sure we block those other notes out. So I can still strum it. So bands like the Strokes would use this kind of technique, right? Foo Fighters, Forever Long, that's definitely in there. And so it's a really cool thing to know how to do, because you can layer that on top of a simple power chord, and all of a sudden you have a full sounding chord. So just as an example, before we go into learning the actual piece for today, I could loop like an A chord, just as an example. Now I can play this octave here. And we can have a melody on top, right? So we can sort of superimpose the idea of what chord we want to play and have a melody with octaves. It sounds really good, especially in a rock context, but also in a jazz context. So the early examples that I know of using octave techniques on the guitar from me anyways. There's actually artists earlier on that did this, but for me, Wes Montgomery was really one of the artists, the jazz artists that sort of got it for me. Got that sound into my ears, aside from punk rock, right? So to me, it was like the juxtaposition of like the 90s punk rock / alternative with the full pit, and also using that technique with fingers. Okay, so fingers using a jazz style. So if you're going to use your fingers, that's why I'm going to demonstrate this today, just to make it applicable to everyone. We're going to use our thumb and our index finger at the same time. We're going to pinch the notes. And then you don't have to worry about blocking those strings if you can't do that yet. But feel free, if you want to, you can go into using a pick and trying that technique of blocking the strings. Alright, so there's our C octave. Now the same relationship occurs on the lowest string, string 6, or the low E string. 3rd fret, string 6. 5th fret, string number 4. Alright, now we go down, same thing we're just on the C. When we go down to the D string with the 3rd fret on string 4 and the 6th fret on string 2. And that's because the 2nd string is tuned to a 3rd interval of the G string as opposed to a 4th like all the other strings. So, for example, the A string is tuned to the 5th fret on the E string. The D string is the 5th fret on the A string. The G string is the 5th fret on the D string, but the B string is the 4th fret on the G string. So we sort of like lose a fret, but have to add it back in when we want to do these octaves, right? So when we're doing the 3rd fret on string 4, we need to go to the 6th fret on string 2. So a little harder on this set of strings, which is why the first one I'm going to show you today is on string 5, and string 3. And then string 3 and string 1, same deal. Because of that second string, we need to add 1 fret to offset everything. Okay, so now that I've introduced the idea of what an octave is, we might as well get into learning our phrase. Alright, so our octave phrase starts on the 11th fret of the 5th string. And like I said, I'm going to use my thumb and my middle finger, or my index finger, to go through this. But I'll first show you the melody on just the 5th string. So we're going to go 11, 11, 12, 11, 9, 7, which is G sharp, A, G sharp, F sharp, E. And we're going to play E, D sharp, E, F sharp, E. So 7, 6, 6, 7, 9, 7. If we add the octave, we just have to make sure we bring that ring finger down 2 strings below and 2 frets higher. So 2 strings towards the floor and 2 frets towards your pickups or your sound tool on your guitar. So 11 and 13, 12 and 14, 9 and 11, 7 and 9. And then we go down to 6 and 8. If you're using the picking technique with a pick, you gotta make sure you block everything out. So if you're doing something a little faster, we'll say either in the rock realm, punk rock, whatever it might be. Muting those strings would be very important. But it can sound really nice with just 2 fingers too, right? And I'm hiding my pick in my fingers while I pluck, or in my hand while I pluck with my fingers, okay? So that's the first octave. Just giving you a phrase to play and help you move these octaves around. Because usually what happens, you get that shape here. When you go to move it, the hand compresses in or stretches out. So you want to be able to actually move those fingers around. Alright, second set of octaves. We're going to do the same. We're doing the same exact notes that we just played, but we're just down on the 4th string and 2nd string. So we're going to go 6 and 9. 7 and 10, back, that's where we were. 4 and 7, 2 and 5. And then down to 1 and 4, back up. So on the low end of this, 6, 6, 7, 6, 4, 2, 2, 1, 1, 2, 4, 2. Alright, there's our second way to play this. The third way, we go all the way to string number 1 to fret number 13. Sorry, string number 3 and string number 1. So string number 3, fret number 13. String number 1 is actually going to be fret number 16. Okay, so I'm just going to tell you the note name, or not the note name, but the fret number on the G string. And keep in mind, you need to be 2 strings lower with the first string, down here, and 3 frets higher, so 13 and 16, right? So I'm playing 13, 13, 14, 13, 11, 9, 9, 8, 8, 9, 11, 9. Alright, there we go. And string number 6, I showed this one last because it's awkward. You may or may not want to do this. Often I don't play octaves on the thickest string, but you can if you want. So we're going to play 16 and 18. So 16, 16, 17, 16, 14, 12. 12, 11, 11, 12, 14, 12. Alright, so that's how you play the phrase that I made for you this week. And it's a great way just to get your fingers used to these different shapes. And keep in mind too, if your pinky finger, you're playing those octaves with the pinky finger, starts hurting, give it a break. Don't play through it. Try to make sure you don't overstrain those fingers, okay? Now, with all this being said, octaves are a great way to play through any style of music. So like I said, for me, it was first punk rock, 90s alternative, but then also eventually getting into some jazz stuff, like Wes Montgomery, like I mentioned. Tons of other artists use this technique, so it doesn't have to be put into a box in terms of where you're going to use this, because it works for any genre, since these are just one single note. So you can use any kind of melody with octaves and it's going to sound good. It can sound good in reggae, it can sound good in funk, soul. As I said, bands like The Strokes use this. So take this, put it into any style of music that you might like. Let me know in the comments below where you like to use these kind of octaves, if you already use them, or if it's a way you found these to be useful. I'd love to hear. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe. More videos like this coming out next week. Every week you'll see a new video added. And students here at Pro Guitar Studio, just go to your student account under premium content and you'll see the tablature for this as well as the recording. And I look forward to seeing you all very soon.